Hey guys, Silas J here with another Python video. In this video, I'm going to briefly discuss what a set is and compare the difference between the list, tuple, and set. So if you're ready, let's start. Another data type that we'll look at is sets. A set is a type of variable that can also hold many elements, just like the list or tuple. But one difference between a set is sets don't allow duplicate elements. Both lists and tuples can have duplicate elements, but not with sets. Another difference between sets and tuples, or lists, is that elements of a set must be immutable, which means they can't be changed or mutated. This means a list can't be in a set, because you can mutate the elements of a list. But a tuple, on the other hand, can't be mutated, so a tuple can be inside a set. Let's look at an example. I have a set with a number 1, the letter A, and a list. This will generate an error because a list can be modified, but if it was a tuple, that would be fine. Now that we know what a set is, let's actually see one in action. So I'm back here on my desktop computer and I'm ready to show you how to create a set using Python. So let's open up our IDE and go create a Python file, and let's go create a set. So the first thing we had to do is name the set like usual. So I'm going to choose a random name today, and I'm going to actually choose a name Donut because I'm hungry. Look on your keyboard and look for the left curly bracket. And Visual Studio Code already does that for me, and it automatically puts a right one, but if it doesn't do that for you, then just put a right curly bracket. And this is our set. Now let's fill it up with stuff. So just like a list, I'm going to put in the letters A, B, and C. And I'm going to print this to the terminal. And there we go. We see A, B, C. It's almost just like if I create a list, my list, and I did the same thing. A, B, and C. The only difference, hold on for a quick second. I made a mistake there. I knew I was hungry. There we go. So, the only difference is like practically how we created them. So now that we printed it to the terminal, let's do some experiments with our set. So, one thing with sets that differ from lists and tuples is every element must be unique. So, let's try this here. I put 2 of the same letters. Let's see what's going to happen there. One thing about a set is a set does not care about the order at all. A set won't care about if A is in front of B, or it can still switch things up. So here it says B, C, and A, even though here it says A, B, and C. So that's kind of interesting. But with a list, it does matter about the position. If I did the same thing with a list, ran it, and if I ran it, it's in the same exact order as if it was right here. But with a set, the order kind of varies, as you can clearly see. So with sets, they do not have a specific order. And you can clearly see that there's only one C, even though here we have specifically said there should be 2 C's. So that means there can only be one element in each. But let's try this with numbers. Let's see what happens if we have a number. So 1, 2, 3, and 3. Let's try this with the list also. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. So if we run this, we have 1, 2, and 3 in our set, even though we have 2 3s here, but it just exempts that last 3. And we have 1, 2, and 3 in our list. And if we put another 3, then we should see that other 3. There we go. And we still have this 3 right here. So clearly, you cannot have duplicates in a set. But now, another thing is an element cannot be mutated. So I cannot change the number 2 into, well, 2 is just one element, so technically that doesn't count. But let's say a list. If I have a list can be mutated, but a set requires each element cannot be mutated. But my list will be an element here, and it is able to be mutated. So technically, I should get an error. But let's see what happens. So I have my list here, and I have a list in my list, which you can do that, by the way. And let's see what happens here. And we get an error. It says unhashable type list. And that is saying practically I have a mutable object or element in my set, and that is not allowed. So we can easily just fix that by changing it into a tuple. And with that, since you can't change the elements of a tuple, it should work. And would you look at that, it works. And you can clearly tell it really just messes everything up, like 1, 3, 4, 5, 5. This is 1, 4, 5, 5, 3. And so it does not care about the order of the element at all. While with the list, it keeps it the same. Also, you could put a tuple in a list, and it will run exactly how it should. So they're pretty simple. They're almost just like any other thing, like lists or tuples, except with a tuple, the elements cannot be modified. With the set, the elements can't be modified either. And with a list, the elements can be modified. So sets have the brackets, curly brackets, tuples have the parentheses, and lists just have the simple brackets. And now if we run this again, there we go. So sets and lists, they preserve the order, and you can have duplicates. The tuple and the set, their elements cannot be modified or changed, or I should say their elements cannot be mutated. So with a list, the elements can be mutated. So let's just go show that. My list equals, my list is 0 equals 100. You're going to see that the list has changed. But if I try to do that with a set or a tuple, I'll try the tuple first because the set is a different story. If I try to do that with a tuple, I should get an error because I cannot change or mutate any elements in a tuple. And if I try that with a set, well, technically I should have told you this before, but you can actually try it with a set. So if I do donut, because that's the name of the set, 0, and set that to apple, what I should get is an error, and it says, and I should get an error, and it says set object does not support item assignment, and that's saying right here that it does not support that item assignment. So with sets, I can't actually index anything. The only way is if I create a loop and just looped through each element. That would be the only way for me to access the element. Otherwise, I can't do what I can do with a list or a tuple. But with a set, it could be useful in some cases. I've never really used a set too much. I don't really like to use that thing. But there's some moments where you might have to use a set. So I'm going to hurry up and quickly create a challenge and then come back. Okay, so I'm back here with the challenge. So I first want you to create a set, list, and a tuple, and fill it with the elements, fill all of them I should say, with the elements 1, the string or text apple, and the number 7. Then I want you to change the first element of the list to the number 8. I want you to change the first element of the set to the letter A. This should say letter, not number. And then I want you to print the set, the list, and the tuple to the terminal. So hurry up and complete that, and then I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so you should have done that, and I first said create a set. You could have called it whatever you want. I didn't specify a name, but I'm going to call this my set. So after you did that, then I said I want you to change the first element of the list to the number 8. So let's do that. My list, the first element would be 0, not 1. So my list at index 0 equals the number 8. Then I said change the first element in the set to the letter A. And right off the bat, you should have thought, I can't do that. And that's correct, you can't. Oh, it's just a trick statement. That's kind of impossible with a set. So then just print the set, the list, and the tuple to the terminal. Print my set, my list, and my tuple to the terminal. And there you go. We have my set here, 1 apple 7. We have 8 apple and 7 because we changed the first element of the list to 8, and that's exactly what happened here. And we have the tuple, 1 apple and 7. So that's it for sets in this video. I hoped it helped you understand how to create a set. And even though I don't use them that much, I'm sure there's some use to them. And see you in my next video.